Charles, we're back in Washington Square Park. It's a sunny day.
Well, I hate to correct you in the first 30 seconds, but actually, we're in the metaverse.
Exactly.
You think we're in Washington Square Park, but we decided to change it up, and we are in the metaverse. And if you're watching this, you obviously have your Facebook or whatever they are headphones on, watching us in the metaverse.
Your Oculus, the Meta Quest. Too.
Meta Quest, okay.
Yeah. But, people are still skateboarding around here while Eric Adams is fixated on getting New Yorkers to eat a plant-based, what did he say? A plant-based centered life. And he said that 3 times. So, it wasn't like he misspoke. He just doesn't know how to speak English. But let's take a little walk, see what's going on around in the park. There's basically a weed department store over here.
You need to stock up on anything?
No, I'm good, thanks.
But
this area is off limits now unless you're on a skateboard.
Well, let's begin because we always forget to congratulate the art department.
Thank you.
And I am not all that familiar with the actual video game. I'm sadly all too familiar with President Evil. We'll talk about that for a second. But what's the significance of the poster and the umbrella and all that for those of our viewers who may not be clued in?
Well, you know what? It's kind of funny, Charles, that I didn't think of this before, because this video game, Resident Evil, is basically regarded as a legendary, one of the best video games ever. And it was sort of at the start of where they had these fully 3D interactive universes that you could move around in, and led to a series, I think there's 7 movies. But the actual video game, this is a true story, it shut down 21st Century 3D for days. When it first came out, former employee brought it, and we started playing it at lunch.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, the story behind the game is that this huge evil corporation called the Umbrella Corp has created some kind of vaccine that turns or there's a virus that somehow they created that turns everybody into zombies, and then your goal in the video game is to kill all the zombies. But in today's poster, we've pictured the venerable President Stupid.
Resident.
Yeah, he's working for the Dumbrella Corporation, Charles. And the thing that's amazing is, look at this picture I found of him. He's holding the exact umbrella. I wonder if Joe Biden is a Resident Evil gamer.
Well, it's interesting how, I think in life and in history, when you look at what happens when somebody with tyrannical impulses decides to subjugate a population, they begin with small things. And if the population says, okay, fine, we accept that, then they move on to bigger and bigger things.
Steps.
And then the next thing you know, they're concentration camps, which sadly, 75 years later, 77 years later, there still are people who are willing to say those didn't exist.
Who is saying that?
Well, there are all kinds of people who will say that. They're obviously dead wrong. But I've noticed a change in the coverage of Resident Evil.
Legal weed.
Yeah, everywhere. I've noticed a change, which is that instead of just criticizing the guy for being a mannequin without a brain, Tucker last night, he did use the phrase mannequin, which I found amusing. You got to be careful about gender typing, right?
Person-akin.
He's a person-akin. But why should we restrict? Why should mannequins or person-kins or whatever only be in human form? Isn't that unfair to wolves?
Yeah, he identifies as a wolf.
Well, Jesse Waters actually had somebody, I couldn't tell what variety of individual it was, but who identifies as a wolf. And it was pretty amusing.
Really?
Yeah, but it was, I think, a wind-up. But last night on Tucker, he was basically well down a path of saying, this isn't just policy errors or stupid errors.
Right.
This is evil, what's going on here. And as I think about it, here we are. This area right here is because of NYU and the cost of the real estate around here. This is a well-heeled neighborhood. It may not seem it to people who are looking at this for the first time, but actually the real estate here is extremely expensive. And when NYU is back in full throttle, all of these places are thronged. as you know,
Yeah.
you may know from your history here. But that said, I want to say 10 odd years ago in Ben's Pizzeria, somebody was walking near here. I think the person was gay, and a bunch of thugs saw the gay person and said, "You know what? I'm going to kill you."
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. This is the West Village.
Well, it was at like 5 in the morning or something.
Wow. And so, but it was a hate crime because
It was
the person
absolutely
was
a
gay?
hate crime.
Wow. That's surprising, particularly right here.
Right. And so the policies, we begin with even debating whether you should have an intact border. I mean, there should be no debate there. If you want to just, and here's the famous Cafe Reggio where my father hung out.
Oh, look at that. Well, I mean, it's obvious any place in New York, but I'm sad to see such a sign on a place that I like.
Yeah, well, this is where my father hung out, waiting for my mother to give birth to my next brother down. Back in the days when you weren't allowed in the delivery room.
We're back to those days.
Yeah, well, there's no point. Nobody's having kids.
Well, yeah.
Everyone's too depressed. But when you think about this, that you'll have somebody, and I thought Adam Carolla, I think Adam Carolla, the comedian turned podcaster, is actually extremely smart and hilarious.
Yeah, he is.
And he was on, I think, Hannity last week saying that if AOC were 65 years old and fat, nobody would listen to her. And, you know, what age, that's an ageist statement, I suppose, and a
Sexist
fat
as well.
shaming and sexist, whatever.
But it's funny.
And true. But but the thing of it is, there's certain things I'm not prepared to debate. And one of them is whether you should have, what, a border.
Well, right. But also the other thing to observe, Charles, it's not 8 o'clock in the morning. This is 3 o'clock. There should be people here having booze and food.
At 3 o'clock? When was the last time you had a drink at 3 o'clock?
Not me, but every time I ever walk by here at any time of the day, these things are usually full, right? Yeah. This guy's from the neighborhood. The weather?
It was like hot and then it was like cold real quick, so that's why.
But and also because people can't be inside, so I mean these restaurants are suffering. Sorry, anyway.
So
the border.
as I say, there's certain things I'll be prepared to debate. You know, oh man, this used to be a very
Papa's Tavern.
That used to be good.
Greek place. This whole area has been decimated because it's all about just coming out and having food, having drinks.
Look
are
at
you guys closing?
Nope. They close like a couple of years, but they're gonna open.
They're gonna open.
Good. Good luck
Papa's
to you.
again?
A Greek restaurant.
Same one, Papa's Tavern?
Yeah, that's the one that they're gonna open. That's
Okay.
the new one.
The new one.
Look at
Panchitos, right. It was Panchitos.
look at this small pizza burger fried chicken place. Look at the number of delivery cycles in front of this place.
I don't think those guys are delivering pizza and fried chicken. First of all,
What?
one of them's,
What do you think they're delivering?
I don't know, but they have got some strange gear on.
Well, let's stay away from that.
I think that's a good idea. Now, this is new,
Chocolate dip.
and this is new.
Yeah. So just if I can finish
Yes.
on this one point. So on the notion of should we or should we not have an intact border, you don't have a country if you don't have an intact border.
Right.
And here's Monty's, which I have to say is a fantastic Italian restaurant, in my opinion. In your opinion too, I believe.
Absolutely. I haven't been in a long time.
So it say, I guess it doesn't say you need a mask, but
No, you do. I mean, you got to have the Vax Pass.
this is new. Soul fresh
Yeah, it
corn
is.
dogs. Korean
Korean
corn
corn
dogs?
dogs.
I'm not sure of
What
that.
could be better?
Korean dogs. I'm not sure.
Where are you growing corn in Korea?
But so,
No border, no country.
So, yeah, but when we think about what is that, as a practical matter, what does that mean? Tucker said, which I agree with, that if you're if you're a Nigerian doctor, i.e. highly qualified,
Yes.
or a German machinist or engineer, and you want to emigrate to this country, the process to get in here lawfully is a lengthy and expensive process. On the other hand, the way Bite Me has set this up is the word is out. And it's not, you look at these pictures that are on lots of different channels concerning the flow of illegal migrants across the southern border. It's not simply, it's certainly not Mexicans. It's people from Central America, Africa,
Yep.
Haiti, Asia, you name it. And the people who ultimately are going to pay the price for with this stream of illegal people across the southern border are people, the poor in the neighborhoods where the police has been defunded, or where the police are uninterested in
Demoralized.
and uninterested and unmotivated. It's in those neighborhoods where you're going to see, where we are seeing a spike in crime, and that, frankly, that's evil. That's the kind of stuff that should. I'm not in favor, frankly, of the Republicans or conservatives running on a platform that we need to impeach Joe Biden. But if this crime spike continues or even soars past where it is now, I think Biden should be impeached, convicted, and deported, frankly.
To where? Delaware.
I don't know, someplace. Let's think of a
Turkmenistan.
Turkmenistan, that place where they're trying to put out that natural gas
Oh,
fire.
yeah, put 'em there.
He should be forced to watch that. Count the flames.
Send them in there.
Not into the fire. That's cruel and unusual. Actually, what he should be forced to do, this is the same torture that I think would be appropriate for Hillary. He should be forced into a room where he has to listen 24/7 at high volume to every one of his stupid ass fucking speeches that he gave in the Senate.
What about this, Charles? Make him live in Afghanistan, where he's left all the thousands of Americans.
Afghanistan, exactly. Well, did you see, on the subject of the speech, did you see there? I mean,
What speech?
My God, they're playing tapes of speeches that he gave where he brags about getting a tough crime bill through that he got through with his buddy, doesn't say buddy, but his co-sponsor Strom Thurmond. He brags about it. And then
I remember Strom Thurmond, but what's significant about him?
Strom Thurmond, well, yeah, pretty much. But he's boasting, and he's getting his chops about what a great job he did, etc. And then there are other tapes, which I want to test their authenticity. Maybe the crowd can help us with it. But they're tapes of him dropping the N-word on the Senate floor.
I've seen that, and that is real.
I mean, that's outrageous. On the Senate
I think
floor.
he was quoting something, wasn't he?
No.
Wow.
He was saying, we don't need any more N bitches or N this and that. Yeah, I mean, it was just amazing. He also, not in that speech, when George, I think it was either H.W. or W., put forward an African-American woman as the Supreme...
And he blocked it.
He led the blockage of it,
Joe Biden is a blockage.
And so when we start with his immediate decision...
Who's that?
Shirley Chisholm. She's a congressperson.
Because there's somebody with the last name Chisholm who has a law firm that specializes in nonprofit stuff. I get ads for it.
It's a very common name, but she's a famous icon, actually.
She's a Brooklyn badass.
Apparently.
I like that. I like that design of that sticker.
Yeah. So
he is himself a blockage.
Well, but when we start with one of the first things the idiot did is he blocked the Keystone Pipeline, right?
Wow.
Here we are as an investor and longtime investor in energy, I'm actually happy that the price of oil is way up, and energy stocks, certain of the ones I own, are way up. But that being said, the Keystone Pipeline was something. We can debate the potential environmental consequences till the cows come home, but if you're sitting there right now with hospitals shut down thanks to this moron, and a bunch of people saying, you know what, I'm being told, I shouldn't go in for this test or this elective surgery. And when you make that decision, you hope that you're going to be okay. But now we're seeing a spike in death rates. We're seeing, and you can't necessarily draw the causal link yet, but you're seeing perhaps the negative consequences of people saying, you know what, I will put this off because the hospitals are overcrowded and all these COVID restrictions. I don't want to go into the hospital, be vaccinated, and get COVID.
But are they attributing these? Here's a Tesla taxi, Charles.
Right, but my point, I'm just taking off the different reasons.
But are they attributing those additional deaths to COVID, or they're saying they don't know what the cause is?
They don't know yet. But there's a spike, a huge spike.
Wow.
Charlie Kirk has a piece, and he was on, again, Tucker, I think, on Monday, talking about how the overall death rate, people aged 18 to 64 in this country, is up 40%, which is a very high, in a year, which is a very high increase. high enough that actuaries and insurance people are saying, listen, you don't seem to understand the significance of this increase. If it were to 10%, we'd be jumping up and down, hair on fire, but 40 is mammoth.
Right.
And again, I'm not saying it's due to COVID itself, but I am saying that it's something that we really, absolutely should get to the bottom of.
Gotta get a handle on.
Right, so we
Right.
go down here.
People will recognize, Charles.
Right, so the key decision to cripple the energy industry, which the Biden administration is trying to do or may have done, thereby curtailing supply in a cold winter, which is, of course, the cold winter, of course, is due to global warming, but is one decision that we lay at the doorstep of this moron who is mostly in Rehoboth and Wilmington. We'll stop in front of this place. Another thing we can talk about as we're inching up here is corruption. And there's an article in the paper, one of these papers, I forget which, talking about the fact that the Biden family should be deemed a criminal enterprise that should be prosecuted under RICO. And I tend to agree with that. Okay, here we go.
But this isn't the one.
This is
it?
the one,
Oh,
absolutely.
it is, Awakening.
The George
Bourget, right.
Gallery.
Now, Charles, when we started coming here, did they have this rack of city bikes right here?
No, they moved them in afterwards.
Isn't that really interesting that City Bike, which seems to be owned by Citibank, would put this thing here, which seems like, oh, this is just a rack of bikes, but it's actually blocking protests from the front of this art gallery that's laundering crackhead art.
Right, and so I thought it would be amusing to sit here and talk a little bit about the Hunter Biden a crack pipe in every pot initiative, and on so many levels. In my experience, I've never been in politics, but just watching politics, I believe the way it works is you have a staff meeting. I don't know how regular they are, but you have a staff meeting. People, before they get to the meeting, they're fighting about who should be on the agenda, what should be first, how much time should we give it, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a natural culling process where you say, okay, so-and-so who's on the team only because they're a major political contributor and they're a billionaire, put them in the corner with a dunce cap up and anything they want on their head and anything they want to put forward, put it in the bin. But
the British bin.
Exactly.
The trash.
The trash. But to have
rubbish.
To have somebody say, it's like the opposite of the AOC Green New Deal at $93 trillion. To suggest that you're going to make safe crack pipe zones across the United States at a cost of $30 million. Divide that by 50, you're talking $600,000 a state. You can't do anything for $600,000 a state significant, let alone operate safe zones for crack pipes, as if that makes any sense. And why would you bring that up? You've got a president of the United States. Yeah, but you've got a president of the United States who is not denying that Hunter had a crack problem. You have the mainstream media even now, the New York Times and others going in and saying, let's examine Hunter a little bit more closely. What was he really doing in China, in Ukraine? You've got people asking the legitimate questions, are Biden's foreign policies driven by the fact that there's dirt on him and his family? And then you have all these pictures from the laptop, which again, nobody's disavowed, which were on Tucker last night.
Oh.
Do you want this are we going to have this type of a crack pipe or this one picture, and then a picture of Hunter Biden sleeping in bed with a crack pipe next to his pillow. And
it really
that was
is.
on TV last night. So how could you let such a stupid ass initiative, you say, the next thing, I think that our politicians, they're suffering a loss of self-esteem dealing with their wealthy donors. So I'm going to suggest that everybody should have 4 oceanfront mansions like Barack Obama.
Oh.
If you win a congressional seat, you get 1. Senate seat 2, president, you get 4, and that should be financed by, it's just ridiculous that they have anything in there about this crack pipe initiative. And even more ridiculous that we have in the press today.
This is Build Back Better, Build Crack Better.
Smoke Crack Better.
Yeah.
It should be, Smoke Crack Better, or however you do it.
But that's what it's part of, right?
The Smoke Crack Better initiative,
That's a pretty low helicopter,
Yeah,
Charles.
let's hope we're not about to be drone struck. And that's probably Hunter saying, I've got an initiative, Dad, I want to lead, the smoke crack better thing. Why don't you just give me 30 million? Okay. Cheaper,
Yeah.
it's safer than getting it from Ukraine. So seriously, this issue of corruption, we have something in the press about how people from the National Archives have run down to
Raided Trump.
right to get back whatever may be down there by way of papers. And I was talking to my dad about this, and he was prone to give people a pass. Nobody really understands.
Whoa.
In the National Archives, they don't really have enough staff to go after this properly. And
But how do they raid anything? I thought the National Archives was a bunch of people hanging out in a library. They have cops.
who knows? Probably. And but the point is that if you're going to say the National Archives is going to hold on to all these papers, and you're going to make a federal case over Sandy Burglar stuffing who
Right.
knows what down his pants. Now, this is interesting.
This is out.
Yeah. It's like
This is National Geographic. Why?
mega out.
Now, wait a minute. So
That's
Discovery
Discovery.
Channel just, yeah.
Discovery Channel probably said, you know what? We don't need a fine art gallery next to Hunter. We can't
Yeah.
compete with that.
Oh,
Let's go that way.
okay, so,
So this is the heart of, would you say Soho? Yeah.
yeah.
Prince Street is pretty upscale.
The sock store is still open. That gives people some idea of how upscale this neighborhood is.
Those socks are not cheap. I
That's
believe.
what I'm saying.
That's
Like,
why I tend not to wear them.
every regular store is closed, but the $80 sock place is still
Well,
open.
and the Korean corn dog.
Yeah.
Got to have your Korean corn dogs. So, where were we right beforehand?
Well, the crack pipes for 30 million.
Oh, we're talking about National Archives. So if the National Archives is just going to keep all the presidential records, I actually have a book, very well written book, frankly, by the former head of the Clinton Archive and the George H.W. Bush Archive,
Oh yeah.
giving you a lot of inside baseball as to how the procedures work. And they're very actually rigorous, according to this book, which may be bullshit, but because it's written by an archivist. But all of the presidential records are defined by statute, and you're supposed to be copying them into the National Archives on a current basis. There are things that become discretionary, and as the president is turfed out, in the case of Clinton, as he knows he's going to leave when he's in his second term, there's a process by which you have to make a judgment. Is this a presidential record or not? And a presidential record is defined as being not simply written, it's electronic, it's tape recorded, it's visual, it's a long definition, but it's stuff that relates to the administration of the presidency. And also personal records are defined in the statute as well. So there is a distinction, in many cases, a clear distinction between presidential records and personal records. Then there's the case of overlap. Now,
There's a wreck over here.
yeah, we don't have a budget to fix the sidewalks in New York.
But 30 million for crack.
Nationwide. So, I mean, probably would cost about $1 million to fix one pothole here in New York. But we, in the case of Trump, the issue was in Mar-a-Lago, was he holding records there that were actually should have been in the custody of the National Archives? And who knows? I mean, we'll find out. But if you're going to make an issue
Yeah.
about that, which I think you should, you have to go back in time to the Clinton Foundation,
Bush, Obama.
Bush, all these people, and ask. But I know the Clinton case better. The Clintons were shipping plane loads filled with records out to Little Rock while he was still president.
Now, wait a minute. What happened to that 757 that landed in Arkansas
We
when
don't know.
Trump was president? It just landed and
We don't know.
nothing.
So here we are. This is, if I didn't know the truth and I were from out of town and you were to try to tell me this is valuable real estate, I'd say, in what alternative universe do you think that's the case?
This is the Apple store here in this
I know,
old
and there's
post office.
more importantly for you, I know you like to get wear the latest Louis Vuitton, but there
Not
you go.
really.
Actually,
I thought it's bags, Louis Vuitton.
well, don't you
Luggage
have a man
and-
bag?
No.
$10,000 man bag?
I guess they make jackets and stuff too, huh?
I don't
Anything leather.
I don't know.
I mean, you know, Eric Adams wants you to eat a plant-based,
Right.
vegan Louis Vuitton.
I think it was Louis Vuitton. It may have been Gucci. I was so embarrassed in high school playing tennis on the varsity team. My mother, gave me a present. I forgot what it was. Either a Gucci racket cover or a Louis Vuitton. And I'm like, Mom, that's nice, but I'm not going to be taking that to
Too
school.
fancy.
No, I'm not taking that to school. The shit I would have taken.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to that Ianelli cafe over there?
Nope.
I wonder if it's any good. So,
So they're hitting up Trump for the records, but not these other former presidents.
and why these records are important. Currently, I think the attitude that the insiders take is that
This is a great kind of dog with a two-tone.
nice. The attitude that folks take in politics is you're either on our team or you're
Or you're
not,
dead.
or you're not on our team, and the whole mission
Whoa.
is. Yeah,
What is
purple?
that?
I don't know. The whole mission of political teams is to make one side look good and the other side look bad, and that conflicts starkly with the proper mission of our National Archives. And there, I know because in the past I've done work looking through the archives in England, which go I actually traveled to the archives in England, which go way
What
back.
archives? Just the National Archives
Yeah,
of
it's called
England?
the National Archives. It's I forget where it is exactly. It's outside London,
Huh.
and or a portion of London. And I almost cried when I opened up. I asked for this box of stuff dealing with 1605 or 1635, and they give me this box, and I open it up, and with no gloves, no nothing. They say you can pick the thing up, and I look at it, and it's a piece of parchment that is just like all crumbled and this and that. I'm thinking to myself, what the hell are you guys doing? Why don't you just hire people, get donors to copy this?
Scan it.
It's incredibly important stuff.
You
It's
could
similarly-
open it, it could crumble to dust.
and so, there will be a time, perhaps, assuming humans are still alive 400 years from now, where people are going to want to come and understand how did we let ourselves go from being a democracy to a democracy?
Yeah.
How did that happen? How did a whole bunch of highly, in theory, educated people decide to elect a corrupt guy and an undistinguished moron to put together a cabinet and work in tandem with a plasticine 82-year-old doll?
The Dumbrella Corporation.
Well, I'm thinking about Nancy Pelosi now.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
we got to talk about her goons raiding.
Right. But so the reason that you do care about these papers is you want to, passions will cool. The people close to the political process today will all pass away. In 40, 60, 80, 100 years from now, folks are going to want to go back and understand what really happened. And for that reason, we've paid a lot of money for all these records. They should be housed either.
Hey, somebody says they just announced the crack pipe story is not true.
Really? Okay.
But how could...
How could so many mainstream media publications publish it? I don't know. Tucker went on and on and on about it last night.
Or could it be that they just said, ooh, everybody hates that. Let's say it's not true.
It could be.
Jimi Hendrix footwear, Charles.
I want some of those, high tops.
Yeah, didn't you wear
Purple.
platform shoes
No, I'd look good in those.
with acid in them?
Yeah. Keep my ass.
So
what
the
do you-
National Archives,
Right.
they've...
So it's reasonable to particularly in the case of the Clinton Foundation, where the Clinton Foundation, to put this archive up, signed a 100+ year lease with the city of Little Rock and made a perpetual donation to the National Archives of all this stuff. It's reasonable to insist that the legal formalities of that be proper. And similarly for Trump, I wrote a piece several years ago saying that Donald Trump absolutely should not decide, which he can decide to do, to have a presidential library. It's foolish on his part. I mean, Bill Clinton isn't going to do any legitimate anything, let alone real estate development. We don't have the library. Trump, on the other hand, and his family are going to legitimately be in the real estate business in a big way around the world. And if they make a mistake of doing a foundation, every single project that they do around the world, some schmuck is going to say, well, the reason you got this deal on the property in Tashkent is because you got some Tashkent oligarch to give money to your foundation. And
but haven't they already been told they're not?
Well, they've been told in New York they can't have a foundation.
Oh, just New York.
Yeah, by the Attorney General, the highly impartial,
right.
Apolitical, noble. What the hell is that?
That guy's bike had a speaker on it.
Is it loud enough?
That's the new thing, is to walk.
It's an old thing, right?
Well, but no, to walk around with
80s.
your own personal, Bluetooth speaker blaring.
Yeah.
How do you like this artwork, Charles?
It's impressive. I'll give him 40,000 for that. We can cross.
Sold. Yeah, so there was a congressman from Texas who said that his staff caught an undercover Capitol Police person inappropriately investigating their office.
Yeah, that was on Tucker last night as well. I think this idea of Capitol Police, the original theory behind the House of Representatives was that it was not, and the Senate, is that neither were going to be full-time jobs. Folks
farmers and stuff.
Were primarily farmers, and I've never been a farmer, though I've owned land.
Seems like it would take a lot of time, Charles.
Well, it's interesting. Not only does it take time, but what you realize when you are closer to the farming cycle is how puny any strong man or woman is in comparison to the
fighting nature.
In comparison to the forces of nature. You could do everything. You could take every precaution and do everything that you think will protect your crop and your animals and all that kind of stuff. And then you can wake up and then out of the blue there's a 100-year storm or a 20-year storm. And,
wiped out in a day.
And it happens. I remember I took Clarissa to her birthday on October 2nd, 1987. And we went to some Italian restaurant in Millbrook. And October, the leaves haven't completely fallen. And we had just bought that big house at Salt Point. And several months before. And
you an electric motorcycle,
got
Charles?
2 of those.
You'd look great on that.
I had a real one. I had 2 real ones, actually. One for me and one for my son.
Well, that's real.
When he was 9. But, or maybe not 9.
Good body work on there.
Probably done by the government.
How are you?
Anyway, let's keep going this way. So, took her to this restaurant October 2nd, and, I said, well, I know she doesn't like this, but I'll get them to sing happy birthday. And she was sitting down, she said, I hate it when people sing happy birthday in a restaurant. Next thing, happy birthday, anyway. And so we get in the car, and the Jeep, actually, simple CJ7, we drive back home, and it's raining pretty hard. And I wake up the next morning to go get the newspaper, and I open the front door, and it was very foggy. Idiot. It was foggy, and so I couldn't really see out the windows. It's a red light.
Guy's a jackass. Here's another CBD store.
And so I opened the door, and as my trademark, not wearing socks, and I sink into 18 inches of wet snow on October 3rd.
Wow.
1987.
Yeah, so you never know what the weather might do.
And that snowstorm wreaked absolute havoc with the area because the leaves were still up on the trees, and it cracked a whole bunch of trees. Just snapped them to
Power lines and
smithereens. Yeah, now, I don't know. Bowery is what avenue? Is it 3rd or 2nd?
I don't know. It's east of First, isn't it?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
Anyway, we'll just walk up here. We're heading up to 14th Street.
Do you need any restaurant equipment, Charles?
That's right.
It seems to be a sale going on or something. It's all out here.
Yeah, I'll take a sink.
Gigantic rice cooker, perhaps?
That's big.
25% discount.
Or a statue of a cook.
Statue of a pizza guy. Actually, a popcorn thing.
Now
would
this
be
is
good.
interesting. What are marital arts supplies? I know martial arts.
Oh my God, look at that.
Is that like, over here in the apology
It's going
section?
to be a sex store.
No, in the apology section.
That's amazing. I wonder if they've noticed.
Probably not. This, I think, is
That's like the ninja store, by the way.
For some reason, I've seen this around the world. That you'll have districts in every city will spring up, and they're all selling the same shit. There's restaurant equipment over there. I think there's a bunch of restaurants.
Well, this whole area is the restaurant equipment store area.
And I guess the school of thought is that, the first guy goes in, if the store works, the competitor says, well, people want a comparison shop, so you set up a second one.
I think actually it's like that one sells ovens, and that one sells pans, and that one sells silverware.
And this one sells nothing.
Right.
And here we have globe slicers.
So that's some kind, see, it's for a deli meat
That's
machine.
sad, actually. I mean, I bet you the globe slicer company was a serious company. And it doesn't look too busy right now.
It doesn't really look open.
Yeah. And these are old-fashioned. I mean, the last time they invested in any storefront modernization was probably 1965.
No need. I mean, everybody who opens a restaurant in New York just comes down here. So like this place is maybe for baking,
Yeah, and you go and you buy, if you're going to have, I don't know if you ever threw a party and had a caterer and then they charge you for the plates and all this kind of stuff. That happened to me once and I said, fuck that. I'll just buy like 48 plates and just keep them in the house. I'm not going to pay the freight I had to pay last time.
Plates.
Chair, table, booth outlet.
Oh yeah, see, that's what I mean. They're specialized in different types of stuff.
But why the Chinese characters, I wonder?
What
Jason,
about this? What is that?
I don't know. But there you have, Jason, if you want to stop in and get yourself a smoothie.
Where?
Whole Foods.
Oh yeah, no, I'm good. But Charles, look at how many COVID testing tents are around. Something just occurred to me today because I was walking around a little bit yesterday and saw a lot of these tents. If you are in the business of shoving Q-tips up the nose of people who are potentially sick with COVID, wouldn't you say that that's like a high risk for contracting COVID?
I would think so.
But all these guys are bare hands, bare face, testing every moron who walks up for free.
Well, at least they're not doing it the way they do it in China now.
The anal swab. I bet you if you opened that, it would be very popular. You could have your free anal swab tent. Come on in. Just bring your anus. That's all you need.
Down in the village, I mean. But anyway.
Wherever. People could be down for that.
Could be.
So what is going to, any result?
We hadn't finished though on the Capitol Police. So,
yeah, that's what I was getting back to, yeah.
So the Capitol, the idea that the Capitol should have a police force is interesting. Why not simply have Washington, D.C. police shoulder their august responsibilities in protecting this like any other? And then the notion that the Capitol Police should have an intelligence division.
They have jurisdiction throughout the world, wherever.
That's outrageous.
Wherever members of Congress travel.
That's outrageous. That is a gross.
That's what they have.
It's a gross overreach.
And they are the only police force in the United States that is not subject to freedom of information
That's
requests.
outrageous. It's got to stop.
Well, that's how they do it.
I love this one. Architectural and altered
this
antiques.
Used to be on 25th Street.
But how do you have
things.
an altered antique? It's either an antique or it isn't.
Well, but this is the place that used to drive around with a big giant
Oh, I
box
know.
truck
I
with
know.
glass
I know.
walls and just have this junk in it that you could.
That's not junk. That's an altered antique.
It's a dinosaur.
So what is it? I mean, when I was a kid growing up, an antique was something that was 100 years old or more.
I thought 20.
Now it's 20?
No, I don't
That's
know.
inflation.
No, something with cars, but I think if your car is over a certain number of years old and it's not 100, you can
can't
get.
be for a car. Yeah, it's kind of,
Maybe it's
probably-
not antique, classic, something
Classic
like that.
car.
Plates where you get different insurance for it and everything.
But maybe people will send emails in or whatever.
Now, there's no
new-
news in there, Charles, but someone's making a new stand.
Custer's new stand.
This is the same people who own the Marital Supply Store. They're opening a spelling bee store.
Right. So I just
Spelling
feel,
C.
yeah, I feel like this whole story of Nancy Pelosi. There's a twin piece of it that Nancy Pelosi has refused to comply.
This is where they're doing the anal swab tests. The hole.
Now, see, this art actually is interesting to me. You see, this is a little bit more interesting. I don't know. I'm no art expert, but I would look at that and say, that's somewhat interesting.
Looks deliberate, unlike the Hunter Biden
The
art.
Hunter Biden thing is like a step below those old paint by numbers things on velvet
Yeah.
or velour or whatever.
He should do that. Velvet Elvises painted by a crackhead.
But I think Nancy Pelosi has refused to comply with the January 6th committee concerning the origins, of what preparations should have been taken.
Yeah,
for this,
that
weren't.
I think that was part of it. They wanted to do a Freedom of Information Act request to find out some kind of communications with the Capitol Police, and they said no.
Which is outrageous. I mean, that to me, the whole, you and I were there, and Bitch McConnell now, and Marco,
Rubio.
Marco Soap, Soap Bath Rubio,
Right, yeah.
are all saying it was a violent event. I mean, we have 5 hours of videotape going you have 5 hours of videotape going all over that area. And yes, it's true that in a portion of the Capitol, there would appear to have been some violence. Yes, that's true.
Limited number of people.
Right. But when you divide, even let's say those idiots are right that it was 10,000 people. I think it was probably 2, 3, 4, 500,000, but use 10,000. And let's assume
Way more than 200,000.
whatever. Let's just pick a number. I mean, 10,000 is a good number. It's not big enough, but use 10,000. The number of violent actors in this riot is not 1,000 people. It
No.
might be
Couple hundred.
a couple hundred. So 200 divided by 10,000. You cannot say that the bulk of activity on January 6th was violence, because it wasn't. And all of these prima donnas who were so concerned. Look at that car. What is that?
That is like an old, I think it's a Chrysler. Man, that was cool.
It's gone.
It's like a dragster.
It's already gone. Wow.
That I think was a Chrysler. That looked kind of like the car that Sylvester Stallone had in the movie Cobra.
Uh-huh.
Oh look, Charles, they're starting to advertise the Batman, the new movie.
That should be about Fauci, the Batman.
Charles, Fauci, what I am learning as I continue to read this Robert Kennedy book, and actually, let's finish your thought, because I wanted to talk to you about that, about AIDS and a new understanding that I have of some of the comments that you've made throughout the time that we've known each other, because the Kennedy book references a lot of the books and articles that you've spoken about, and it mentioned some details that clarified things in my mind that I want to bring up, but
Yeah, well, a narrow point, I just think that it's crystal clear to me that folks who wanted to make sure that Trump was dead and buried politically
yeah.
were all in for turning the set of events that happened on January 6th into a stake through Trump's political future. And I think it's, if we're going to have, as we have had, caterwauling across the mainstream media for months years now about what actually happened. You know, they're in the hoax business. If you're going to do all that, then it's reasonable, fair and reasonable, to have an inquiry where evidence is sought and we figure out what truly may have happened. I want to go up that way.
Sure.
Because I think that way to 14th Street we get to
Okay.
that food place. So, you know, I think it's if the function of the Capitol Police is to protect lawmakers without regard to political party, I could maybe sign on to that.
That's not what it is.
But it's not. It's a Stasi
Yeah.
for Nancy Pelosi. And some of the comments that have been made by the Capitol Police officials in the course of this event about Republicans, about what was going on here, are so over the top. I mean, police should, you can express your political views in the polling place, but you shouldn't be policing political enemies to root out their, because you don't like their beliefs or you don't like what they stand for. That's not what those are not our values, as Barack Obama used to say.
Wow. I mean, look at this.
Well, Jason, this is a statement. This is garbage.
Ultra sack.
Clear recycling bag.
That's pretty funny. That they're throwing away
A sack of Ultra Sacks. And there's the high school for Grace Church School, my school, one of my schools.
But that's not the mint flavored sack. Well, I agree with you, Charles. The Capitol Police are a huge problem. Actually, I've eaten at that place in LA.
Japanese barbecue?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
pretty good if you like that shabu kind of paying to cook your own food. But
There's, over there to your right is Architecture on Crack.
give it a free pipe.
I mean, it's an interesting building to look at, but what's the point of all these curves and angles?
So that this city is not entirely rectangles, or I don't know. Isn't that Cooper Union?
Cooper Union is dead ahead on your left.
But what does it say right there?
It's also Cooper Union.
Yeah. Anyway, here's what I wanted to discuss with you.
Sure.
So, people actually have emailed me about this, and I don't know if I've brought it to your attention, but they have told me that you've spoken inaccurately when you talk about this idea of HIV and then what you have called full-blown AIDS.
Right.
And I have a better understanding for what the distinction is between those two things. And I didn't even realize this, and I think a lot of people don't realize this. So AIDS, we know, is acquired immune deficiency syndrome.
Right.
And HIV is the human immunovirus.
Right.
And the general consensus among people who say this is that HIV causes AIDS.
Evolves into AIDS is what I've been told, but whatever.
Well, so first thing I did was, because this is what I've been having to do this a lot lately, because when it comes to laws, and if we're talking about what is AIDS, and we're going to make rules about it and laws about it, and if you have it, you have to do this or that or whatever. So the first thing I did is I went to the NIH.gov, and so acquired immune deficiency syndrome, I said, well, what is a syndrome? Because AIDS is not a virus, and it's actually not even a disease.
Right.
Cancer is a disease.
Right.
Okay? So a syndrome, according to the NIH, it is a recognizable complex of symptoms and physical findings which indicate a specific condition for which a direct cause is not necessarily understood.
Right.
Now that's a very interesting definition, because the RFK book goes into some detail about, and I don't have the terminology at my fingertips, but there's something called KS. Maybe people in the comments remember what Klinefelter syndrome, maybe? I don't know. But there's some sort of, I don't know. There's something that in the 80s, when they first discovered AIDS, when it first became this epidemic, they said if you have this thing and a T cell count below a certain number, you're diagnosed as having AIDS.
Right.
That set of symptoms and conditions was the syndrome, acquired immune deficiency syndrome.
Right.
Now, the Robert Kennedy book, it references a lot of research that reviewed this sort of body of patients, this cluster of patients. There were a couple thousand who were, gay men. When it first was discovered, it was
Right.
considered to be mostly among gay men.
Right.
And there were a lot of things about their pathology that was similar. They were drug users. A lot of them had had other STDs like herpes and chlamydia and gonorrhea, for which each of them had received treatment with a variety of different antibiotics and other drugs. So, and also, they were all, or at least like in this particular group that they were talking about in the book, users of this drug called amyl nitrate, which is some kind of muscle relaxing drug that was used in raves and clubs and gay clubs and everything.
Right.
And I don't think it was even illegal, because it talks about how it was advertised in magazines like The Advocate, but that amyl nitrate is known to reduce T cell count in people who take it. I don't know what the medical use of it is, but the point is, this was a group of people who had engaged in a prolonged set of behaviors that really, really damaged their immune systems and made them susceptible to diseases that normal healthy people with battered immune systems weren't susceptible to. Look at this tiny little kid running along.
Just to have.
I think that nanny right there might be minding him.
Not a good job. Anyway, so my point is, the book goes into a real lot of detail about how an AIDS diagnosis in Africa is based on a totally different set of diseases and symptoms than it is in the United States, and that there are scientists who believe that the people who were getting this syndrome in Africa were getting it for a totally different reason than the people in the United States. And it was, dirty water and no toilets and that kind of thing.
The dollar shop.
What's up with that?
Same as they must have, the marital AIDS signage person must have done.
No, that's something different, because it's a hot pot restaurant. So that dollar must be something that we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Type of food, maybe? Comments will know. Charles, all of this crap is out of business.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
New York Central Tea Apply Inc. New York Entral Arts Supply Inc. Probably.
Yeah. Huh. Well, anyway, I thought that was interesting, because I think a lot of people don't even understand what AIDS is.
Well, again, this is Fauci and Birx and Jeffrey Sachs and Paul Farmer and all these people jumping up and down in 2001 after George W. Bush won. And I'm not saying there isn't a set of issues, health concerns. I'm sure there is. But I will say it made no sense to rush and create the Global Fund by January 2002, or 1, or whenever they did it, 2, I guess, and load that thing up with tens of billions, approaching $100 billion now, and let a whole bunch of globalist thugs write fancy reports arguing for money, get that money, send it into places, as you say, in resource-starved places, resource-starved countries where there are no health systems and there is no clean water or clean sanitation, there are no roads, there's no electricity, and flood those countries with all kinds of money, claiming that you're going to redress AIDS and now COVID and other problems, and have no oversight of it. And just blithely, when 75% of the Global Fund money has likely been stolen, according to internal estimates, there's
moving truck.
Yeah, there's no rush to go back and say, let's check and see what happened to that money, because it's government money. It's our money to PEPFAR, the Global Fund. It's other governments put it into these cesspools and they send it around the world, and nobody checks anything.
And Paul Farmer, he's Partners in Health, right?
With Jim Kim.
Partners in Health just came up on the John Cullen show last Friday.
Yeah, it's another one. I mean, I've contacted Harvard for details on Paul Farmer, and I call bullshit on his resume. He may well have gotten those degrees, but I call bullshit on what he was doing in Haiti before he was a medical doctor. How can you be treating patients without a medical degree in a country like Haiti? How do you do that
I mean, the Kennedy.
responsibly?
Well, you've just added the caveat. The Kennedy book goes into, again, more detail about what they were doing with these failed drugs and,
Right.
unloading them on people in these kind of underdeveloped nations, and really, really, truly terrible stuff. Again, I encourage people to read it because it comes back to that same exact notion of like, oh, the courts are rigged or the this or that is rigged. I mean, okay, but how? We need to understand that.
Right.
Now, this is new.
The ugly duckling?
Yeah.
Who's Elizabeth Warren's restaurant or what?
Well, I mean, I'm just surprised by people who are like opening restaurants,
Probably
And-
with a PPE loan.
big, expensive things, but who's going to come to this?
Hey, you're not far away from NYU. And there's a dorm, NYU dorm around the corner. What we're doing is I had it wrong, we're on the right avenue. We're going up to this food store. Trader Joe's. Crime is out of control in this city. Garbage is also out of control, as we see here. You want an investment
That
product?
says 52 degrees. That's wrong.
Yeah, I think that's not true. But
The bank robbery at the bagel place, Charles.
when you let people know, oh man, this used to be a hamburger place.
This was Five Guys, wasn't it?
Was it Five Guys? The hamburgers look good.
Or Five Napkin something. I think this was Five Napkin hamburger.
That's sad, it's gone.
Well, look at the size of it. I mean, the rent must be incredible, and
But it used to be packed.
I mean, this is what I'm saying.
So here is Trader Joe's, and apparently, according to press accounts, there have been robberies at Trader Joe's the last 2 days in a row. People have been walking in and just stuffing food down their pants and running out and
Try that with a Joe's Pizza.
without a care in the world.
Yeah.
And here we have, why pay rent? And you got a food store over there, and you just
Yeah.
bring your shack, put it in front of the food store. But this is the place apparently where people have been stuffing steaks down their pants and and then running out.
What are they going to cook it with?
I don't know. I mean, you just stand here for a second. I mean, when you go, I've been in here a long time ago. When you go in, there's a pretty, it's kind of like, poor man's Whole Foods, the same checkout thing. And I guess what people have been doing is they go in, they stuff the food down their pants, and they just come out
What are you guys doing?
we're doing a podcast.
Want to be on it?
Sure.
Are you a local?
Do you live in this neighborhood?
I live on the Upper East Side.
What do you think about this Trader Joe's getting robbed?
I have no idea. Was anyone hurt?
No, but somebody shoved a steak down their pants or something like that. How long have you lived in New York?
They shoved a steak down their pants? Huh.
You sound like you're from the South or something, or the Midwest maybe. Where are you from?
I'm actually from Texas.
Texas, the South.
That's
I was
the
right.
South.
So is anyone hurt?
Not
Just
that
the
we've
steak.
heard of.
Just the steak.
Why did you move
Was
from
it a guy
Texas
or a
to New
girl
York?
that stuffed it in their pants?
I think
I'm
a
gonna
guy.
go with a guy.
Typical.
Yeah. So,
He's just not hot enough, I guess.
how are you liking New York compared
I've
to
been here
Texas?
20 years, so I must like it.
But don't you think the past 2 years we've been experiencing kind of a dangerous decline into criminal disorganization? Have you noticed any increase in crime?
You are definitely a news person. You're definitely finding the dismal.
Am I finding the dismal?
Fighting.
I don't know. I just don't. I just try to stay in the good, which is getting some great food at Trader Joe's.
Well,
All right,
load up.
Enjoy that.
Load up. Pay the sales tax.
What's the name of your podcast?
Crowdsource the truth on YouTube.
So cool. Hey, I have a dance school. You want to come visit us?
Well, why don't you say the name of it and then we can check it out in the future?
Well, I look so hideous.
Well,
You make me look. I look just so hideous. I don't want to say
you look nice to me, but Well, anyway, if you don't want to, that's
Will
fine.
you cut it out though?
Not
No.
going to be doing anything like that, no.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, this is so cool.
Thank
Where
you.
is the podcast? Where
On
can I
YouTube,
find it?
Crowdsource the Truth. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Happy shopping.
Whoa, look at how that just went nuts.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just push the angle too much, Charles. Okay, anyway, that lady seemed inquisitive and then had nothing to say.
Right.
So anyway, you were saying they robbed the steak out of here.
Right, and you know, you could probably here's some people wondering what we're doing, probably, but you probably could go in the store, you know, put as much stuff in your pants as you want, and then instead of going out this way through the checkout, you run out as if you bought nothing.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, in the interest of equity, I think they should let people shove some steaks down
And
their
you get a
pants.
free crack pipe there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
And then here's the Trader Joe's wine shop. And you
Oh.
get COVID tested.
yeah.
while
So
you're
this
out.
is what I mean. Like, see, the people doing the testing, aren't they vectors for spreading it? Shouldn't they, at least, if you've had your fingers up multiple people's noses today, shouldn't they be wearing gloves and
But why, you know,
protection suits?
why would you be testing even now? I mean, these ads that are on television, you know, the New York City Health Department, the same people are on nonstop across multiple platforms. I got to believe these ads, which are 30 seconds long or longer, are not cheap. And
Yeah.
they're saying the Omicron version of COVID is raging. Well, that's not what the data shows.
Well,
right
but they
now.
also keep changing it every day. They're like, oh, highest cases since the start of the thing, dropping mask mandates. Wait a minute.
The science has changed. Jason. Science has changed.
Well-
Anyway, I don't want to get in trouble there.
No, and the thing about science that's interesting is that this Robert Kennedy book talks a lot about how Fauci got into the position that he's in, his relationship with George Bush, his relationship with Bill Gates.
Well, did you see this thing? Actually, Tucker was pretty funny. I forget who he had on to talk about this latest thing that some moron is saying that in addition to wearing multiple masks, what you have to do is wear ladies' pantyhose over your masks.
That's good to
And
rob a bank,
It was
too.
Jesse Waters who did it, and it was very, very funny. And the guest said, well, I don't know, maybe what happened is, you know, Tony Fauci has quite a pantyhose collection he's stashed away in some room in his apartment, and he was wearing his pantyhose on his head, and his wife came in and saw him with the pantyhose on his head and said, and Fauci said, well, it's for testing, it's for medical reasons. You need to wear pantyhose on your mask.
Yeah, women's underwear would help as well. Look, here's another COVID test.
Lingerie. Yeah, I mean,
Charles, this is ridiculous.
talk about a ghetto testing operation. I mean, he's got the ski
I mean,
mask
at least that lady has a suit on.
and a ski mask. There's another COVID one over there.
I know. I mean, they're everywhere.
Let's go up to Barnes and Noble.
Now, that van and COVID thing, it looks very much like the Best Buy color scheme. Is Best Buy running
I don't know.
COVID vans?
I don't know. And why is that COVID test thing white? Why isn't the van black?
It's racist.
There's another one further up the street.
Charles, there's so many of these. You know, I have to say that before the 2008 financial crisis, I cannot say that I have any insight into, oh, you know, the Chinese market is doing this and collateralized debt obligations are going to do this and that. I was just like, man, there's a lot of banks opening. Why are there so many bank branches around? It seems like too many.
Right.
Something must be wrong. I had no idea what, but I distinctly had that feeling that so many banks had opened, and I'm having the same feeling right now.
Too many
What's
COVID.
that?
Another COVID testing.
No, that sign. You see that sign right there?
The only other
some new-
traffic or something. We'll see it in a second. Lab Q.
Yeah, there's just way too many of these. So like whatever $30 million crack pipe budget they had, I think they have 100 times that for the
Well,
Lab Q test.
nobody's standing here.
Well, I mean, for days I've seen nobody at any of these, but these things are still out.
They're probably sending
That says the only other thing is nothing. That's deep.
That's probably 600,000 for that statue. major league, bidding process, artists of the future.
That
here's
guy's
another,
kiosk has gotten used.
Nice fruit stand.
This used to be,
Bank.
well, that thing where everybody's flying in the air, that show La Fuente, or what was it called?
I don't do shows.
This was actually kind of a cool one.
But it used to be Union Square Savings Bank.
That was way back in the day.
In my day. Back, I'd get on my horse, come over here, go to the Ferrier, shoes fixed. Take up George Washington's
I'd like
riding
to deposit my
instruction.
gold pieces.
That's right. I need to pick up a new wig.
So this is Raymore and Flanagan. That was Toys R Us at one point.
Babies R Us.
Right, Babies R Us.
That's right.
So that's gone. And then what's this? This is something Chinese.
50 Land.
Boba tea, I guess.
The Tea of Cool. This is gone. I mean,
that was a clothing store for a long time, and this restaurant is gone.
And across the street is gone.
That was
New
like
York City's back.
Yeah,
You could tell.
that's new over there. What's vested?
I don't know. We'll go and let's see what books are in the window of Barnes and Noble.
Sure. Yeah, this was a clothing store, I recall.
But I think wasn't there some famous club that used to be around here, maybe further up the street? Jazz club, rock band club.
Well,
Long gone.
I mean, Irving Place, but
And this used to be the NYU
are
Film
you thinking
School.
of the Fillmore East? No.
No.
This was the New York Film Academy.
Right,
This was
right
never the New York Film School.
Whatever, Academy
Here-
School.
this is beyond woke. Beyond woke. Hoke.
I shudder to think what Beyond Woke is. It's like
It's a
terminally
combination of a
stupid.
wok and poke.
Woke with no brain.
Now, also, you used to have. Oh no, that was it. Beyond Walk was the every CD $9.99 in college. I would go there all the time.
Huh.
I forget what that was called. Disco Rama. Oh wow,
This is the
that
W
was a
Hotel.
good restaurant.
Yeah.
And the ground floor of the W is gone now.
Remember, I was here right before W went bankrupt. The W Hotel went bankrupt.
I didn't know that even happened.
Late in 2009, I was there, and I was with this attractive young lady, and we were having a bottle of champagne and whatever, and relaxing late at night. And this Arab guy, comes up to us and says, "This is my hotel."
2 dozen camels for your date, sir.
And I said, "That's great. Aren't you impressed? This is my hotel." I knew it was going bankrupt. I didn't say anything. It's my hotel. What does she think? Could you leave us alone, please? We're kind of enjoying ourselves.
That's weird.
Yeah. He had to have his last moment of fun, I guess.
Huh.
So I think one of our first early videos was to get here
Yep.
right before the famous book that is very
Very.
useful. You don't want to read it because there's no point in reading it, but it's really good now. You could buy one for like $1, which is a lot cheaper than charcoal briquettes. You can get a.
Yeah, we could donate them to the homeless to make sort of some, huts like that guy. This thing was Roffin's for a long time.
Well, and the Red Door used to be. God, what's
What
the
is
name? It's a fancy women's spa. Elizabeth Arden.
More moving stuff.
Elizabeth Arden. See, it was a very expensive spa.
Charles, all this stuff is out of business.
But that's good, Jason. It means that the economy's booming, because these are profit-seeking, evil corporations, and capitalism's outmoded, as we know from dumb OC.
The problem is not capitalism. The problem is corruption and monopolists who break the law and manipulate things like Bill Gates.
Not according to AOC. Capitalism is outmoded.
What does this say? In compliance with local regulations, face coverings are required in the store.
So they used to put a multiple of different books here, but now we've only got
Yeah, why
Paul
is
McCartney, the lyrics.
That is really weird. Well, there's an IMAX Beatles movie that came out that says it's directed by Peter Jackson, which I'm a little bit confused by, because how did they shoot IMAX in the 1960s, and how did Peter Jackson direct something before he was when was Peter Jackson born? The Beatles.
I don't know. This lady is out here all the time. I sort of pity her.
This is still the pet store, right?
I don't know. It doesn't look too open. Maybe it's open. Yeah, I guess it's open.
Petco. Wow, now wait a minute. This looks more like a deli than a pet store. What are they doing with the pets, Charles? Oh yeah, this lady's an opera singer. Or some kind of singer.
Broadway, I would say.
Yeah.
So there, see that store there, Vinci?
That's the ice cream place.
Very expensive ice cream. She's not bad, but you would think that by this time she would have been noticed and gotten a job. It's kind of
Maybe she doesn't want to get the vaccine, so her only option for the job is to stand there
out
and sing.
here in the cold. So have you gotten all the Doc Martens you need, or?
I haven't actually had any Doc Martens since probably college days. They're pretty comfortable, I have to say.
But look at those shoes. I mean,
well, that's a style issue. I mean, if you just get the regular, ska, stomping, yeah, these are, I'm just talking about the regular ones.
yeah. Somehow I don't think I look terribly good in Doc
It's not your
Martens.
style, and
No.
it's not even my style anymore. But 1992 New York citizens, that's the type of shoes you needed. Or scofflaws or any of those.
So we're
Mephistopheles.
kind of on the back nine of this show, so perhaps I can talk a little bit about the Clinton Foundation.
Sure.
So I've been writing up something.
That was reminiscent of India, Charles.
I'm telling you.
17 people on
Right.
a moped.
So what I'm doing, if you're gonna write something about this at this day and age, you have to write it for posterity. It has to be thorough. It has to go well beyond what the average reader will want to read.
Almost like a reference.
It has to be bulletproof. And the headline of what I'm writing for the surface level.
Wait, hang on a second.
Yeah. The headline of what I'm writing for the kind of the surface, somebody with a surface level understanding of accounting and finance, is that for the first time in the sordid history of this fraud, on June 9th, 2006, the people around the Clinton Foundation decided, you know what, we're going to try to do this right. We're going to get these idiots, BKD, to issue an audit.
Are you being serious? They wanted to do it right? That's why
I'm trying to be charitable.
Okay.
This is Black History Month. I want to be charitable. And so let's assume they said, do it right.
Wait, look at this.
Let the guy go.
Well, but yeah, I mean, no one is paying attention to that. It's pretty stupid.
You should. We're not going to let you go, though, Mr. Jetson, on your motorbike. But the headline is that let's say they decide to get together, and for the first time, we're gonna do an audit, which means when you think of an audit, don't think about IRS agents coming and checking things. It's outsiders going and checking the work of management and making sure that the financial statements actually are correct, and they're done not using gibberish, not using some helter-skelter
GAAP
approach, actually using generally accepted accounting principles as promulgated or adopted in the United States of America. That's what these were supposed to be. Yeah, don't bother to look before you drive there, buddy.
He's got to ride it on the sidewalk, of course.
Of course, he's a man on a mission. So what you're trying to do with these statements is you're trying to make sure that you show the financial position of the entity at the beginning. And in this case, a sleuth like me can go and find the real beginning is not December 31st, 2004, but it's December 31st, 2003. That's the starting point for these financial statements. And you can figure that out very simply, as I have done You take their work, you take the cash flow statements and income statements for 2004, and you reverse those entries. Whatever they said positively, you just do the opposite, and you'll get back to December 31st, 2003. I do that work, and I discover that work is totally off, completely off by $43 million.
Wow.
On a balance sheet of roughly 100.
It's a lot.
That's like, if you're going to make a mistake, why not make a Whopper?
Count. Yeah.
Why not make a Whopper?
Sorry to interrupt, Charles, but basically every single thing except the movie theater and the cheese place, which is offering scotch and cheese, which I didn't know that was a thing, but every single other place is closed.
And some wine stores are open.
But I'm saying on this stretch here.
Yeah. This used to be a nice store in here.
Well, this was a giant diner for a long, long time called, I can't believe I don't remember the name of it. I used to eat there all the time. But it was too big, and it closed, and then it was another restaurant, and then it was some kind of like clothing store or some kind of foreign country.
It was too big, and it failed.
Too big, and it failed. But back to the accounting.
All right, so
you reverse it.
Generally, if you, in arithmetic, if the the starting place of whatever you're doing is wrong, chances are everything afterwards will be wrong. And that's the case. So the opening December 31st, 2003 is wrong. 2004 is badly wrong and hides the theft during that year of $64 million, a further $64 million.
Wow.
2005 is wrong, and on the one hand hides, attempts to mask a theft of another $10 million, but on the other hand counts $26.4 million of profit from the operation of the Bush-Clinton-Katrina Fund as accruing to the benefit of the Clinton Foundation.
Wow.
Which is absurd. And now that's just three, the opening point, December 31st, 2003, the first year, 2004, the next year, 2005. And what they were trying to do with these financial statements, we've talked about this in the past, there's the entrepreneur's way of thinking about a company, which I'm sure I've done and you've probably done, and that's simply you have cash in your checking account for the company. Most entrepreneurs don't have an investment account in the company when they started out, and you have your credit card. And that's how you're running the business. And if your credit card balance is zero and you've got cash in your checking account, you're happy.
Good. Yeah.
Right? You're good to go. So that is an extremely dangerous, that's the Titanic school of business management. How to head into an iceberg.
Why? What do you mean?
Because what you have to do to be clever about your position is you have to think about revenues that are owed to you but not paid, and bills that you have to pay which you haven't paid yet. Those are called accruals.
Right.
And if you don't keep track of those accruals, you can look in your checking account and say, hey, I got $15,000 in my checking account.
But you're not counting how much you owe.
But you forgot about that contract that you signed that says if you miss a payment, the full balance is due. That kind of stuff, or whatever.
Right.
So you have to look at these accruals very carefully. And this is something the Clinton Foundation did not do from October 23rd, 1997 through January 8th, 2006. So 10 years.
Wow.
Roughly. They didn't do it.
But they're not entrepreneurs.
They're Dumas.
They're a charity.
They're criminals. And they probably, the problem with living in a one-party state like New York State or Arkansas, where you've got a few very powerful families in Arkansas and not very many middle-class people and a lot of poor people, and a big government that you can steal from, the state government.
That you were the governor of and were stealing from.
And then you go from that to being president of the United States. You begin to think, well, because I'm an Arkansas corporation, the rules that apply to me are Arkansas law. And Arkansas law is very mushy. It's not an old state compared to New York State.
Right.
And it doesn't have the volume of big ticket charities or the volume of case law.
I was going to say that. It's not going to have the volume of cases, so you're
Right.
not going to have as much decision and
Right.
debate over the laws.
So in Arkansas, it does say, actually, in the statute, which nobody cares about evidently, it does say that you've got to keep proper books and records. They have to be complete and proper. But it doesn't specify in Arkansas law what method of accounting you're supposed to use on your charity.
This is how they work. This
Right.
is how every lawyer works. There's
Well-
a hole, they're going to go in it.
Okay, but the problem is that in states like New York and Massachusetts, what they say is, okay, you're an Arkansas charity and you want to come in here and start raising money in New York, fuck Arkansas law.
Yeah.
If you want to raise money, solicit money in New York, your books and records have to be kept in accordance with generally accepted U.S. accounting principles. And if they're not, you can't come in here and do this.
Right.
And so that's something they started doing. Some accounts say in 98, others say in 99. I think it's more likely 99. But they were raising money here in New York without having their books and records properly struck. They've been doing it ever since, and certainly they were doing it through June 8th, 2006. And another principle of accrual-based accounting is you have to be careful that you look at the cash that comes in as revenue and the cash that goes out as expenses, and you have to match them to the time period. In other words, if you sell a service that somebody uses, you want to go, what, up to 20?
You tell me.
I don't know the time, how much time.
We got all the time you need.
Where are we?
1 hour and 20.
Let's go at Madison for the hell.
Sure.
Walk through here a little bit, and then we'll go across maybe 34th.
Check out our usual dog location.
Be careful. Women don't appreciate it when you use that phrase.
I'm talking about this.
Oh.
It's
But
very empty right now.
so if you sell something, if you accept a donation for the Bush Clinton Katrina Fund in 2005, then you have to record that as revenue related to 2005. If you incur expenses in 2005, but you don't pay for them until 2006, you still have to treat them as a 2005 expense. You can't.
Right.
And that's a basic principle of accrual-based accounting. Cash-based accounting, on the other hand, you can recognize revenues when you get the check for the revenue. You can say, this is cute, stroller gridlock.
Yeah, this is the hour for whatever reason where everybody is
Well,
out.
this is kids are out of school and they come and
But
they
also,
play.
those women don't look like the mothers of those
Well, this is
children.
nanny. These are all nannies. So let's go up Madison. We'll go past Chelsea Clinton's
Sure.
fancy apartment. And so in this, you would think that if you're 9 years in, 10 years into a process of committing fraud, that if you're going to change your accounting method and make a big to-do about what a virtue signaler you are now that you're actually going to play by the rules, you'd think you want to get it right. So these idiots collect money on behalf of the Bush Clinton Katrina Fund in 2005, and they argue that all the money, in this case 26.4 million that they claim they collected, is profit to them.
Huh.
An interesting
It's a good
idea.
way to work that out.
I'm raising money for the Bush Clinton Katrina Fund, but I'm going to count it as profit.
What did the Bush Katrina Fund say about it?
Who knows? I mean, I think the Bush Clinton, we've had many shows on that. That thing is so compromised. The
Wow.
reports are also atrocious, and I just think that the Clintons, and by that point, and the Bushes were so intertwined in bad charity reporting,
Right.
and each had the bones on the other,
That's exactly right.
that they knew, nobody's going to do anything about it.
But
The
wait a
dirtier,
minute.
the better.
But so you're saying there's 24 million in the Clinton
26.4.
26.4 million that the Clinton Foundation says is profit from the Clinton Bush Katrina. Why don't we just go look at the Clinton Bush Katrina and see what they say about that same 26.4 million?
Well, because what they do is the Clinton Foundation is a calendar year filer, so i.e. a year ends December 31st. What these tricksters did is they said, you know what, we're going to switch, we're going to have our year be September 30th or October 1st to October 4th actually in the first year, to September 30th. And so the first year for the Bush Clinton Katrina Fund is a year that begins 4 October 2006 and ends September 30, 2007. So you can't easily trace
What
the
came
flows.
from where?
Right.
Wow,
But-
that sounds like a pretty complicated
No,
way
it's on purpose to hide it. I mean, what I would another thing that I would say, if I had free reign to rewrite this, is to say, if the parent company elects
It's super cold over here.
because there's no sun. If the parent company elects a year end of a given month, then that same schedule must be used by all subsidiaries.
Can we go that way?
Sure, whatever.
We just gotta
It's
get
tough
back
to
in
go
the
up
sun.
Madison this way, but
Well, but we're not
Yeah,
gonna
it's
have
all
any
right.
sun on here.
yeah, it's no problem. So the other thing with the Bush Clinton Katrina Fund, of course, like the Clinton Foundation itself, it was incorporated on October 4th, 2005. Did I say six before? I got that wrong. October 4th, 2005 to September 30th, 2006. But it was incorporated October 4th, but Bill and many others began fundraising for this thing in late August 2005. And indeed, there are all kinds of press accounts that we have talked about in the past where people brag about how much money was raised. I mean, a lot of money was raised on behalf of an organization that wasn't incorporated until October 4th and didn't become tax exempt until December. All of which on a basis of a fundraising application that was false and materially misleading, leaving out all the relationships with the Clinton Foundation and the numerous legal and financial defects in the Clinton Foundation that should have disqualified it to raise money for the Bush Clinton Katrina Fund.
Well, not to mention, where are all of his presidential records?
Bush's? Yeah, a whole bunch are missing.
Bush's, Clintons.
Well, I
and-
know why you wanted us to go by here.
Nah.
Museum of Sex.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in there. It's a fine place to go, not particularly.
Super Funland.
Yeah, I don't know. That's some exhibit they have. I haven't been in there in a long time. I went there with Vanessa when we were dating. It was a funny place
Get the
to go.
message.
No, I mean,
That's really
it's fun. Well, Charles, I think that people liked it when we were back in the studio doing, get a little mix going of, at least today it was warmer than 20 degrees, so the equipment will function.
Right.
But it is still pretty cold, actually.
Well, we could wend our way back to HQ if you.
Yeah, and then, I mean, I don't know, on Sunday, do you want to do an episode where we can dig into some of these Bush Katrina
Absolutely,
things?
I definitely want to do that.
So back in the studio for Sunday. I don't know what the weather is supposed to be, but that seems like a good idea. People were sending me messages like, oh, who cares, it's cold, go outside. But,
Is it the Superb Owl on Sunday or is that Monday?
oh, you're right. I think it is Sunday. But
Who are you rooting for?
I don't even know who's playing, nor do I care.
I think it's the
Oh, well,
Cincinnati
it's the
Bengals
LA Rams.
and the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm more affiliated with LA than Cincinnati,
We
but
could
I
do
just,
a pregame show.
just don't care about football at all. But what time does the game start?
I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to
I don't
check.
think I care about the Super Bowl at all, and I think most of the people who watch our show probably share that.
It's been, it's funny. The Super Bowl, in my
Opinion.
experience, can be incredibly boring
Yeah.
or outstanding. It seldom is it in like a neutral corner. It's generally really why did I waste 3 hours listening to people yell at each other and make projections based on no evidence?
Right. No, actually, people who know about football and know the different players and everything, there are people who I believe can make thoughtful projections about what might happen. I just don't care. It's
Right.
like if they said, a bunch of guys who, if they didn't have anything else to do, would be beating up their wives, are gonna play tic-tac-toe. And they all get paid like $30 million. You wanna watch it? Like, no, not interested at all. But I do like barbecues and parties
do too.
around the
With a
Super
TV
Bowl. Now,
off.
here's somebody else who's got their kids skating on the thing
Where?
right behind us.
Oh, let's leave. We don't win.
Not going to say anything, but it's just not something that should be done.
Let's cross the street also so we don't go into that soul cycle thing.
Soul sucking. Joe Biden. Yeah,
Soul
well,
sucker.
the Dumbrella Corporation, President Evil.
Well, yeah, to get back to that, I mean, here we go. This guy's the beat of a different drummer right
He's
here.
got the moves. Oh, he stopped dancing.
Yeah.
Oh, here he goes again.
Let's get right past him. So,
Dumbrella Joe.
so we think count one on impeachment would be the border. Count two would be perhaps Afghanistan for sure. And now we've heard there's some Senate report or whatever came out that thousands of Americans were left behind in Afghanistan. And just as you talk about with AIDS, evil people experimenting with medicines that may or may not work on foreign poor people, and for that matter, domestic poor people.
Yeah.
It's some kind of ghoul to take American tax money and occupy a country like Afghanistan for 20 years, encourage people who know better, that they know that if America leaves, they're going to get killed and their family's going to be crushed. Say, no, stick with us, you can trust us.
Right.
And then
leave
the way we left and brag about it. You know?
Crazy.
I mean, at least, a real noble person would have got up there and said, to the people of the world, we promised that we would do right by you, and we failed. And because we failed, I and Kamala Harris are resigning. And I fired the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
And Nancy Pelosi takes over?
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying you would stand up and you'd fall on your figurative sword and you take ownership.
Yeah, but this requires him to be a man of integrity, which he's not. We wouldn't even be in this situation if he was somebody with that kind of.
Same with same with HW.
Oh. I was trying to stay out of that guy's picture, but he was doing a selfie.
Yeah, this is me in front of a coffee shop.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. What do we got going on here?
I don't know. Something. Let's just
This
walk.
is the counterterrorism police.
I don't know.
Oh, got to be texting. Everything all right? I mean, that guy's got a look on his face like, how dare you point a camera at me?
I don't know. Just keep walking. Any time I see a whole bunch of policemen with heavy guns, I get as far away from them as possible. Not because I think they're going to do something to me, but one of the standard that's new.
That was a Korean barbecue, and now it's some other kind of bar. But isn't that Vietnamese though?
I don't think so. But I could be wrong. I'm no expert.
I don't know. That doesn't seem like a Korean name, but I don't know.
Gangnam. It wasn't Gangnam and Nangnam.
Oh yeah, you're right. Must be. It's funny that they would close one Korean barbecue place and open another.
Unless it's the same owner, and you're like, let's not pay rent for 2 years and go back in a slightly different name. And
maybe that's right.
Maybe that's the issue.
Everybody's got an angle, Charles.
They do. You got to have them in this city. So we're headed towards dusk.
Yeah.
And it really does in this city.
It's going to get cold.
It gets cold very quickly. You must, with no hat, you must be freezing.
I'm colder than I expected to be, but I'm not freezing.
That's right.
I should have worn gloves. I would have been better. And I'm just going to, we're almost at the end of the line, so I want to remind people to become sponsors on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We got another episode of High Dive with Lee Stranahan tonight at 8:30 that people will be able to see, along with an entire library of sponsor-exclusive content on there.
Right.
And that's basically the deal, Charles.
How many, is this where you get your toys, Dragon Toy?
No, Dragon and Toy.
I mean, how does a store like this,
these toys through the dirt?
How does a store like this stay in business, I wonder?
I don't believe that its primary purpose is the sale of this material.
What do you think it is? Education? Is it a charity?
I just would think that there's something going on that we don't know about.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of these stores, and perhaps it's to, I don't know, maybe it's to have some entity that you can get people work visas with. Maybe it's to deploy those teams of fake Louis Vuitton bags, but something strange going on there.
It's quite a varied neighborhood. Did you get one of those like pink hats there? Pink
I'm not really a hat person,
Chanel.
and pink is not my color.
Are you sure? I don't know.
Green really kind of
You green, dark green.
brings out my eyes a bit
Is that
more,
right?
Charles.
Okay. Is that what they say? Is that what your color consultant told you?
I don't have a color consultant.
You don't.
No. I could get a color blind consultant. But there's a lot of things going on that I'm not ready to discuss yet.
All right.
And a lot of people have been following the docket in the various lawsuits that I'm involved in.
Well, one thing to discuss a little bit as we're almost done is this Epstein.
Ah, yeah.
And a friend of ours, I won't mention his name, has been going back through the manifests, and apparently there's more than
The flight logs.
there's a number of them. There's not just one. And as a guest, there are also manifests we don't know about that, because the captain fills it out, and the captain is under an
gotta
obligation.
submit it.
Well, but if Epstein's going to do what he's doing, it wouldn't cost him that much extra. Say the captain, look, on this trip, why don't I do the manifest?
That's Rossman Repair Group right there.
Oh, good.
Very popular YouTube
Right
channel.
next to the Hanes
underwear store.
But anyway, there's that letter from Dersh and the other guy. What's his name?
I always forget his name.
Lefcourt.
Lefcourt, right.
And asking for leniency to the judge in 2007. I want to say it's July 2007. I could be wrong.
Right.
Asking for leniency, claiming that Epstein was instrumental in
Founding the Clinton.
in the global initiative and fighting HIV and AIDS and all this
Right.
kind of stuff. Now, he was very active, and Clinton is on the manifest, as is Doug Band and Ira Magaziner and others, during 2002. What if that lawyer is right? What if Epstein actually was a lot more involved with the Clinton Foundation, and what he likely was doing, looking at the state of the accounting that I've been looking at, is he was in charge of creative accounting. Let's just put it that way. Making sure that funds that were necessary to finance various things were kept
there.
off the Clinton Foundation books and were managed, in quotes, mismanaged by Epstein and his crew. And again, let's wait. If I were
COVID test?
yeah, I don't want to get another one. If I were somebody like Durham, who, by the way, Trump sat down with Kash Patel on a podcast recently
Really?
and said that he thinks it's going to take longer than we'd hope, but there's a lot coming. This is Trump talking now, and Kash Patel both saying that.
Whose podcast was that?
His Kash Patel's.
Aha.
Yeah. And so, what then if Epstein was a lot more involved in this? And again, the business model for the type of charity fraud that the Clintons were involved in, and I think others are involved in, is you come up with this idea, free COVID testing, right? And you have these things all over the place. And who is going to check? And it's not free because these people are working for free. It's free
they're
because
submitting some number of tests.
some invoice. And who's to
Right.
say,
Did
how
they
many
do 10 or 100 today?
Well, was BKD involved checking the number of people who said they had the test? Right?
Right.
Similarly, with the Clinton Foundation, or with a Green New Deal, or climate, whatever, something that sounds interesting, you set up a foundation, the Ortel Foundation, and the crooked version of me, and you have allies around the world. You say, listen, you can use this thing, but I get some percentage off the top of whatever you raise, and we're just not going to fold these revenues into the consolidated financial results of the audit. We're all just going to steal the money, and we're going to write fancy reports saying that we care about the climate, and we care
right.
about this, and we've gotten McKinsey to say we care about this, and we've gotten Swami Salami to bless our activities in
Help
India.
people get access to opportunities for...
Right. You've got the person in charge of propaganda and word salads writing these essays about all the things you care about and what you think you did and why you should like us. And meanwhile, you're scamming to your heart's content. And sadly, pre-pandemic, we saw a lot more people busking on the street asking for money for charities. Many of them now have, the Apple iPads, and they have the whole routine down. Do you care about children? My standard response is no. I do, but
Not
you
gonna
care
talk
about
to you
dogs?
about it.
No. You care about cats? Not even.
Here's a dog.
That's
cones.
Joe's hat. Joe's hats. But really, as we get closer to HQ at the end of the broadcast,
Getting cold.
I really do believe that everyone has their own measurement system of deciding when to call bullshit and when to say, this isn't just a policy disagreement, this is evil that we're dealing with. And I do think that the globalist system is evil.
Yeah.
I think it's crushing the laborer. It's crushing the aspirations of youth.
All of society.
It's crushing minorities. And it is not something that we should tolerate any longer. I'm not advocating violence, but I'm just saying at this coming elections, we need to call out these people. We need to hold them to account. It is a bipartisan scam.
Why should I have to get it from her?
It's a bipartisan criminal enterprise. As much of the money as we can get back, we need to get back, and we need to get back to the basic business of getting government off of our backs and allowing people to have a productive lives, keeping as much of their hard-earned income as they can, meeting their daily expenses and their bills. That's what we should be encouraging, not these grand schemes run by people who basically not only don't know what they're talking about, but are Thelma and Louising us bigly.
So you don't think we should be eating a plant-based centered life?
No.
Oh. No. I agree.
I think that's Eric Adams' thug life.
Eric Adams is an idiot. He should be worried about why all these businesses are closed and why the cops won't do anything to enforce the law, and the district attorney thinks it's all right if you stab somebody a little bit. That's not really a crime.
I don't think he's an idiot, Jason. I think idiots are smarter.
Exactly. It's a good point, Charles. But thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see everybody later tonight for High Dive with Lee